Rise of the Ronin gameplay details have leaked. We have everything from a release window to details about the game that I found a bit surprising given the developer and the game's history that they design. If you didn't know, Rise of the Ronin is a PS5 exclusive that is set to come out in 2024. It is described as a combat-focused open-world action RPG from Team Ninja. The trailer will be looping throughout this video. I wanted to kind of interact with everything that we have from this leak while also looking at some of the details that we have officially from PlayStation, because we actually can, I think, corroborate some of the leak. It does sound like it's lining up with things that we're seeing in the official documentation of the game itself. If you go to the landing page on PlayStation, they have a couple of things I'm going to look at. Now, Team Ninja is the company behind games like Nioh and Wolong, and we already have good info from the PlayStation site about the game, and I want to look at that before we look at the leaks. Now, the leaks come from Insider Gaming. They spoke with the Snitch. Whether or not you think the Snitch is believable or not, we'll be taking a look at it. Now, if you go to the official landing page for this game, you will find the following said about being able to shape the story. It says, see the story unfold in different ways depending on the choices you make and the characters you ally with along the way. Face critical mission decisions like whether to assassinate or protect key figures, and shape the course of history through a rich multi-choice system. Now, many games have the illusion of choice, right? They'll let you choose who to side with, what to do, and it ends up not being really impactful at all. It sounds like they're actually going with a very, as they describe it, rich multi-choice system. You're going to be changing the shape of history. Likely, this is going to come down to if you decide not to kill a leader or let a leader live, it'll have ramifications within how the story unfolds. It is taking place in feudal Japan. Now, the open world is going to be taking place in the Bakumatsu period, and the Bakumatsu period heralds the end of the shogunate as a new era begins and East and West collide. So that is sort of the setting for the game. That's where it's going to be taking place. And you can see right here in the trailer, you even get a time frame for that, 1863 Japan. They then describe the combat as deep, accessible combat. This is going to come in later from some of the leaks. From the veteran developers of Nioh and Ninja Gaiden, Rise of the Ronin offers deeply engaging yet accessible combat with layers of complexity suitable for any playstyle. Face your foes with a selection of close quarters weaponry, or engage from afar with authentic period firearms. Now, when you watch this trailer, it's short, but when you watch this trailer, you see some of those firearms come into play in some of the combat. That may be, somewhat inspired by things we've seen in games like Bloodborne. And I think the language is important about deep, accessible combat. We'll come back to that when we look at one of what I think is the most surprising thing in the leaks, that one detail. Now, the leaks come from none other than the Snitch, and Insider Gaming reached out to Snitch, and this is what they had to say. Taking to his Discord, the Snitch posted several new details of the game, which he claimed is from a user named Soldier Delta. Insider Gaming reached out to the Snitch before the publication of this article, where he said he has seen screenshots of the game and believes the details are 100% real. So he didn't just get some bullet points and decide, oh yeah, here's details on Rise of the Ronin. He's getting those details from someone who seemingly has access to the game, or at the very least, they have access to genuine screenshots of the game. So maybe a marketing company that's getting ready to cook up a new trailer. Maybe there's blog post information that's getting ready to be published. We know that PlayStation likes to publish those blog posts with good info about their games, and maybe this individual has access to that stuff. Now, the next sentence is what got my attention. It says, the leak claims that Rise of the Ronin is planned to release in Q1 2024 and will be a mix of Assassin's Creed, Ghost of Tsushima, and Dark Souls. Now, I am a huge fan of Ghost of Tsushima. I'm a huge fan of Assassin's Creed, and I'm a pretty decent fan of Dark Souls 3. I really love Sekiro and Elden Ring. Now, I hope they can blend and execute this well, because the launch window of Q1 2024 is right around the corner, and it is in agreement with this trailer here. At the end of the trailer I've been showing periodically, it does say that the game is set to come out in 2024. Now, those were 2 of the 8 bullet points. One bullet point being the Q1 2024, and another bullet point being that it's going to be like Ghost of Tsushima, Assassin's Creed, and Dark Souls. So I want to look at the other 6 remaining details that we got. I am going to save the craziest one for last because I think it's going to be the cause for more discussion and debate. So I'll give my thoughts on that in a moment. Now, first, they said in the leaks that there will be deep and discoverable lore. People that like to pick up items and sort of examine them, you'll probably like this. Many item descriptions are used to make the lore bigger and better. An example given is, it was produced in the craftsmanship style associated with a renowned blacksmith named Akasoto Nagasani, who lived in Musashi during the 17th century and was also known as Kotetsu. Now, this is the type of thing that I honestly ignore. I'm just being honest here. Typically, I don't pick up items like this and read them. Now, I did enjoy all of the side stories and the side missions and scenes in Tsushima. That's kind of rare for me to get sort of engrossed in a story and really want to pay attention to everything that's going on. I typically don't do that, and I loved doing it in Ghost of Tsushima. I think it is great for people who enjoy that type of thing. If you really want to pick up books and pieces of paper, necklaces, swords, and read the item descriptions and get those big, deep lore descriptions, this is going to be, great for you. It's going to have that element of lore building in the game. Then there was a line about side quests, and this is where people are maybe going to roll their eyes a little bit. It says numerous side quests that are more like Ubisoft side quest designs. So, as I said, I think people are going to roll their eyes at this. Many people are sort of stigmatized against side quests in general, and certainly Ubisoft invokes imagery of a bloated map with lots of checklists and tons of icons and things to do. Knowing Team Ninja, I would not expect this to be an issue of map bloat or game bloat. Hopefully this would be an acceptable amount of filler. I think we have to accept there will be certain levels of filler in games that seek to do open world, especially one where you're going to be making choices that impact the story. It can't simply be just nothing but main quest. That gives games more of a linear, more of a predictable, everybody has the exact same experience type of game, and I do like the option of sort of filling in the game with side quests. As long as the side quests are not too samey or redundant or tedious, I don't really have an issue with them. I think we're getting into a very strange period of time where people are almost fatigued with open world games, and instead of maybe taking a break from them or playing something else, I tend to think they're sort of almost experiencing what I would consider to be familiarity breeding contempt. You've played so many games that the minute you can sort of sniff out that, well, this is a side quest that's a fetch quest, this is a side quest that's a chase quest. Once you kind of sniff that out, the veil gets removed and you see the game for the gaminess that it is, and you end up not liking it. It's not a fault of the game, it's not a bad design decision, it's more of a sign of gamer fatigue, I think, than anything. So I do think we have to be able to accept a certain amount of filler in games like this, especially when it's open world. Now, the next one's not surprising. It says there will be skill and technique trees. The word technique caught my attention. Maybe that's going to be something like the stances in Ghost of Tsushima. You had those 4 stances. I really, really enjoyed them. That was one of my favorite aspects of Ghost of Tsushima. So maybe we can invest in different techniques that will bring about different gameplay and combat changes. If you remember, when they described the combat as sort of a deep, accessible combat system, they said that they wanted to offer layers of complexity suitable for any play style. So you can face your foes close quarters with, weaponry. You can also use firearms. So those techniques are likely going to come into play there. You can sort of change your approach to combat depending on which technique you think is best or which one is best for you, okay? The next is not surprising for anybody who owns a PS5. There will be performance and quality modes. They're trying to improve fidelity before launch. Now, this is basically standard fare at this point for anybody who has a PS5, especially PS5 exclusives. Now, barring the issues with Final Fantasy XVI's performance mode not being super consistent when you're not in combat, that obviously is something that we hope we see patched very, very soon. But other than that, that's been a very consistent value point to PS5 owners, is that we get a performance mode and a quality mode. A lot of the exclusive titles have more than just those 2 modes. Some of them have 4 or more performance and quality modes to choose from. Now, hearing that they're trying to improve fidelity before launch is not as worrying as if they said that they were trying to improve performance, right? That would be more concerning. Fidelity means, they're just trying to improve it. They want it to look as good as possible. That's great for quality mode. I don't have any issue with that. If you want to make it shiny and pretty and all the lights are twinkling, great. But performance cannot have any issues in a game like this. It just doesn't work. Even the minor frame rate issues with Elden Ring when it came out were a huge sticking point for many people. It really, really harmed the experience, and I would not want to see that happen in a game like this, especially if it is even remotely reminiscent to Nioh or Wolong with respect to speed. You can't have performance issues. So good to know that we're getting performance and quality issues, and it does seem like they're primarily focusing on the fidelity. Now we have 2 more details, and one of them is a bit odd, and one of them is really surprising. The first one, let's go with the odd one. This one is one that I didn't expect to see. Planned romance options. Romance options were certainly in AC Odyssey and AC Valhalla, so obviously this game is going to be like Ghost of Tsushima, Assassin's Creed, and Dark Souls. Ghost of Tsushima did not have any romance options, and Dark Souls is Dark Souls. So that I could see playing out, in a similar way. Maybe you're going to encounter people that help you. Maybe you encounter people that are obviously looking to you as this hero, and then there's options for romance. Typically in games like this, I tend to stay away from that, but given that they're letting you shape the narrative with your choices, I could see those romance choices also playing a part in that RPG element, in that impactful element where you're shaping what takes place. Romance would obviously do that, right? If there's 3 or 4 people that you encounter that, you can marry or take to bed, that's going to be impacting the story, obviously, because then maybe they capture and kill whoever you romance, right? They like to make these games pretty awful sometimes to really motivate your vengeance and your desire for revenge. So, the last gameplay detail, the one that I find shocking, and this is likely going to cause some debate, I anticipate this, especially considering it is Team Ninja. According to the leaks, there will be difficulty options. And Team Ninja isn't FromSoft, right? They don't make Dark Souls, but they certainly have a reputation like FromSoft. They're in a very, very similar vein. The Nioh games and Wolong do not have difficulty options. They're incredibly challenging games. Many look at difficulty options as a bad decisions. Some might even avoid this game and say, I don't want to play it now. It's just going to be another action-adventure open-world RPG. It's not going to be a really good Team Ninja game, okay? I actually think there is some credence to this leak since they describe the combat as deep, accessible combat. I don't think I would describe Nioh or Wolong as accessible with respect to their combat. The speed and the difficulty of those games makes them, I think, less accessible than Dark Souls 3, Elden Ring, even Sekiro. I found those games to be more accessible, especially early on. The Wolong demo, it was so fast. It's of a certain style that I just don't like. It was so fast, I couldn't tell why I was being successful sometimes or why I was failing. It was almost indistinguishable. I wasn't picking up on the cues, visual or sound. I just couldn't kind of tell, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? Like, I'd be successful and I'd be like, I don't feel like I did anything different. Because the windows for, parries and blocks and things, the windows were so, to me, they were so minuscule that it was hard to tell what was right and what was wrong. So this is shocking, I think. I think this is very surprising if this turns out to be true, okay? And listen, I think it's totally fine to make a game that doesn't have accessible combat, that is really difficult or is very quick and difficult and challenging to get into. Their design philosophy, choices, if that's what they want to do with their game, I fully support games doing that. I don't think that their art and their intention, their authorial intent or their artistic intentions, I do not think they owe anything to anybody. If you're not good enough, sorry. They don't have to put in easy mode. Not every game has to do that, okay? I don't believe in the argument about accessibility. Folks that want more accessibility in games with respect to like colorblind mode or special controllers, I think that's amazing to remove barriers so other people can play, but difficulty options are not binary. I think you cannot argue that, well, that would make it more accessible to people who may have inhibited motor function or something, because there are going to be people with slower reflexes. The older you get, your reflexes get very slow, right? Should there be, easy mode in games for the elderly? Should we put, easy mode in games for people who may have suffered some type of damage from an accident? They're just not as quick as they used to be. There is no impetus on art to bend to those things. I think it's noble if somebody wants to do that with their games, but I don't think it is a requirement, okay? But that also means if I support a company not putting in difficulty options, that means I have to support a company if they decide to do it, if they see fit to put that in their game. If they have determined that this was the right call for the Rise of Ronin, the Rise of the Ronin, then just like not having difficulty options, I think that's their vision, that's their choice. Overall, I think these details are promising. This looks like a great fit and a great addition to the PlayStation lineup. Now, I know you're going to see some of those canned criticisms from people that, oh, it's just another movie game, but anybody who has played Ghost of Tsushima or Sekiro, games like this with very, very tight, very fast combat, would not call those movie games. Funny enough, Wolong is on all platforms, so Wolong wouldn't get that descriptor either. It would be described as a very challenging melee-based combat game. So I am a little biased, right? I love Sekiro. I love Tsushima. I think Sekiro and Ghost of Tsushima have some of the best combat systems in the market. I think they're phenomenal. They're pristine. And any game that's going to land in that lane is going to be very, very exciting for me to take a look at. So for now, these leaks are unconfirmed, okay? But from where I sit, I think they line up well with what we have heard about Rise of the Ronin. Between now and the Rise of the Ronin release date, we will update with more coverage as we get more details. Typically, uploads here on my gaming channel roll over into a members-only debrief. That's a great reason to click the join button. It supports me directly, and you get access to more content. As always, if you're not going to do that, at least hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the bell button, and I'll see you in the next video.